as a creative, your mind is constantly thinking. You have this very wild imagination that will take you places. For me, when I think about mental health, I want to go deep into the roots, into the foundation, to see where the problem originated from. Because what we focus on is the problem, but we tend not to really focus that much on the root. And the root will assist and it will help you in making the right decisions as an individual. Well, first and foremost, I have inflamed tonsils, and I think they're also swollen. It's crazy the way I feel, but I'll be going back to the hospital for another checkup. So my voice may be breaking, and I might take some breaks just to drink water to rehydrate. I didn't want to postpone doing this, recording this topic. And it's because I want you, as you listen to me, that's why I don't want to do a video. I want you to play this, listen to this when you're seated at home or when you're doing your job. And I want you to see yourself. For the first time, I want you to address yourself. And you will understand why I'm saying these things. So mental health, when we talk about mental health, we usually focus on the problem and not the person. And this is me. This is my opinion based on, like I said, when I think of something, I go to the roots. And when you go to the roots represents the people. So why are we focusing a lot on the problem and not the person? So issues, mental health issues such as, the emotional issues, depression, anxiety, physical, mental abuse. When we talk about all these other things, we focus on the problem and we're trying to find solutions to the problem. Emotional issues are deeply rooted issues. There is no particular medicine that can go and heal your emotions. That's why if you have your sweat is emotionally induced, that is the hardest sweat to manage. Why? Because it involves your emotions, and emotions, these are your central core. So there is no medication, there is no topical treatment that can go deep into that core and deal with the emotional issue. There is none. This is why the individuals who sweat from Monday to Monday and the sweat is excessive, and it's so tough and it's so bad that they can even wake up in the middle of the night and they start sweating. This means that their body is constantly on fight or flight mode. You see how difficult this is? And for the 9 years that I've been doing this awareness, the individuals who are looking for a solution to sweat that as a result of emotional issues, the anxiety they have is situational anxiety. But why is it that they are sweating constant? It's because they are subconsciously thinking about their sweat all the time. The whole process of sweat is partly controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. So why or how is it that what I'm about to discuss is tied to your sweat? Some of the topics may seem not relatable, but deep down it is. Because, like I said, when you listen, I want you to picture yourself. You see, healing, or that I'll touch later. Just a brief prefix. If I was to snap my fingers today and your sweat goes away, you will be happy, right? According to you, I've taken away your biggest problem. But haven't I really taken away all the problems away from your life? There are people out here who don't sweat, but they have problems upon problems that they deal with. So on one hand, that which you believe has a negative impact, has impacted your quality of life, Someone else doesn't have it, but that doesn't mean that their lives is sorted. When we talk of healing, I don't think people understand healing per se, because healing is a journey. It's not a one-stop thing. It's a journey, and it must be tested. So we usually focus on the problem and not the person. Our families, the lineage, the generations, they dealt with mental health crises, and these issues are not often addressed. From the root, from the patriarch, the one who started your lineage, up to where you are right now, they never dealt with their mental health crisis and issues. And the focus has always been on the problem and not the person. So I want you to look at what you see on your screen is what I call the tree, the root. So pale chini, you have the patriarch, the beginning. So you have war, trauma, and survival mindset. This survival mindset, up to the current generation, it's still very much available and very much there. And then now, from the root all the way, these are some of the problems, the issues. And I know you'll ask, how is this, how are all these things related to my sweat? Because you are part of the root. You have your patriarch, the patriarch to the codependent mother, abusive father, as you can see, well labeled. So what you see in red represents the generation that never evolved. They never addressed their mental health issues. And so they passed it down to the next generation. And it's very distributed. So what you see in red represents the generations that never evolved, and they never focused on their issues, nor even provide solutions to ensure that the next generation doesn't have to deal with what they faced or whatever they were going through at the time. Blue represents those who are in their healing journey. And as you can see, the blue, they are not many, they are few. Ni wachache. Why are they few? It's because in the current times we're living in, it is only very few people. In terms of percentages, I think it's even less. It's very few who are actively working on themselves, who have a knowledge and an idea of who they are. In fact, the blue represents the individuals who have an identity. They have their own identity, not the one that was given to them or someone else's. They have their own identity. So you have the green. The green represents those who are stuck. They are stuck now between red and blue. Wako stuck hapo. Kuna ile identity yenye alipatiwa, and the identity is what has been passed down to them by their parents. And now as they age, they feel there is something wrong, there is something, a missing piece. And what is that missing piece? And so they are trying as much as possible, with all these questions, and they're inching closer into that wheel of change. They want to cross to the blue, the healing, but they are still here hapa kwa green because they are stuck between what was given to them and their new identity. Excuse me. The yellow represents those who they're not actively doing anything. It's status quo for them. They're in denial. They know there is a problem, but they're in denial. So I want you to look at this tree, because what I'll talk about will revolve around this. And I may be taking breaks because my tonsils are very swollen and inflamed. However, I have to do this. So let us look at the family. I don't want to talk much about the patriarch, because I can't go back to time. I can't do a time capsule and go back to the 16th century and all that. No. I want to talk mostly about these three generations. I want to talk about boomers, late boomers, Generation X, and we, the millennials. Why the topic will revolve around those three generations? Because everything that I've witnessed, and myself, I'm a millennial, so I've seen these guys and how they move, and even personally with my own family, I've seen a lot, and it became a lesson for me. So let us talk about you, the millennial, and I want you to think about your parents. And also Gen Z, they can see a lot of whatever I'm talking about, because millennials, sisi ndo wazazi wa Gen Z. We, the millennials, gave birth to Gen Zs. And so they also see a lot of what I'm about to discuss, because we, the millennials, we are very divided. Some of us are still deeply stuck in denial. Some of us are also on the fence of where they want to be, which side. That's why they always have to run to something. They have to be a part of something. And there are those who are stuck on red. They are very militant. And then very few are healing. So let us look at the family background. You may agree or disagree or be in denial, but the truth is the truth. Let me tell you this. All of our parents, wazazi wetu wote, all our parents are narcissists. Take it or leave it. All our parents are narcissists. And I'll prove it to you. Our parents never addressed their own issues. And this is why they wanted us, the children, to become them. Whatever it is that they never accomplished, they wanted you to do it. And that's why there was a huge fight. And there's always been a huge fight when you as a child, you decide to do something and the parent even refuses to pay school fees or to pay for your college, and because you've chosen to do a different course, and this is the course they don't want. They want you to do what they want. You think that is authority of a parent, but ngoja utaona tu. Robert Greene said, or rather his view on narcissism. Robert Greene views narcissism as a spectrum inherent in all humans, arguing that everyone is a functional narcissist. He suggests that the key to healthy living is turning this self-absorbed energy outward to develop deep sympathy or deep empathy, rather than succumbing to the destructive, deep narcissism characterized by grandiosity, lack of empathy, and insecurity. So let us look at our parents. Our parents, they were always number one. Hakuna mzazi alisema shule alikuwa number one. Mwisho kwa class, they were always number one. That's what they grew up telling us. Our parents were always right. Even when they are wrong, they are right. Our parents raised us the same way they were raised by their parents. You raised the same way your father was raised by your grandfather. Your grandfather ruled with an iron fist, and your father did the same thing. They had this one way of doing things, and in more ways than one, we tend to praise them by saying that they did the right thing with the flogging. Some of us were not flogged, we were tortured. The beatings that most of us endured, if it was to happen in a different setting, I think our parents would be locked up. They would be in prison. But really, think about it. Were those beatings really necessary? How did those beatings transform you? People will argue if we were not beaten to that level, millennials will have been the worst generation, which there might be some truth to it, but the process and the strategy did not really accomplish what it was supposed to. How our parents impacted our mental health, it's very visible by how you conduct yourself. The belief system. We were all at a certain time, we were all infants, right? And when you're born, your brain is very fresh. Your brain has no information in it. It's like buying a new hard drive, and you happen to be the first to give it to store information in it. I know you've done this. You've bought a flash disk and you've stored information into that flash disk. So you're the one who's responsible for giving it instructions. I want you to save this, so it saves. When you give birth to a child, you are the one who's feeding information. Let me say this, as a young child, from the age of 0 to 5 years, anything enye mtoto anaona inaingia kwa long term memory. And I can prove it to you. If you close your eyes right now, you can remember things you witnessed way back when you were a child. Kifunga macho yako sahi, you can witness something you saw or happened when you were young as a child. Word for word, step by step. Whether it was good or whether it was bad, you can remember everything that happened. That's why when people say that they don't remember certain things, a big chunk of it is a lie. They can. So how many of us have witnessed inappropriate things when we were a child? How many of us have our parents stored information that has really impacted our lives even as adult? Say we are at your adulthood stage, your parents contributed by what they stored inside of you. So kuna ule mwenye atazaliwa na information, instructions atapatiwa, it's all about the church. And then there's another parent who's going to give the child instructions or information that is transformative, because they're not thinking about the now, they're thinking about generations to come. So they want you to do better than their generation. So what do? They give you opportunities. So they push you into maybe engineering, those problem solving direction, let me say. So there's the religious route, you have your problem solving route, different routes. But back to why our parents were narcissists is because even their parents were narcissists. And so they grew up around that environment. It dawned on them that it's okay. Our parents never addressed the emotional issues, and they passed down those issues to us. Now you tell me, why is it that when one person alifanya makosa ninyi wote mko mnachapwa? How is that right? Or it's equal beatings, equal flogging. From a human standpoint, if it's one individual who has done wrong, the individual in person should be the one to be disciplined. Maybe now in scenarios whereby someone was doing something and you are aware of it and you did not take the appropriate actions to stop them from doing what they were doing. Now there, you're also liable to be punished. Our parents, they used to do the silent treatments. Let's be honest. Have you ever faced silent treatment? Back when you're at home, growing up at home, have you ever faced silent treatment with your own parent refusing to talk to you? How many times did your parents remind you that they can do without you, but you cannot do without them? With the full knowledge that this is their parental obligation. So why did they have you if they have to remind you why they are doing their obligation? Make it make sense. Even me right now, if I decide I want to become a father, that is not just one single decision, it's an obligation. So I'm obligated to provide food, shelter, clothing, to teach this person, to coach this person through their whole entire life. And it doesn't stop even when they become adults. It's for life. They were very nice at guests and people from the outside. your family will receive praise, but everyone knows, you all know your families, all of you, how they'll even compare you with someone's neighbor's son or daughter and why they're doing better than you. How about if we discuss the sexual abuse, the emotional abuse that happens in families that is hardly talked about? Inakanyagiwa. Your parents are aware. Do they punish these predators? Do they really punish these predators? But let us look at the emotional abuse. How many times were you labeled as useless, dumb? How many times they reminded you that they would rather even have bought domestic animals than have you? To you, maybe at the time you might have these, maybe you thought, oh, this is because they're angry towards you for what you're doing. But in the hindsight, they were actually telling you exactly who they are and how they feel about themselves. This is why I normally say, now as an adult, the best thing you can do is forgive your parent. You don't even need to go there and tell them, Mom and Dad, I forgive you. No, just forgive your parents. If you try to have that conversation with them, they will shift the goalpost. They will tell you why they did all that. They did it for you, and they did it because they love you and they were always on your side. They will shift the goalpost. They will never admit that they were wrong. How? They are the parents. They are the God. Who are you to tell God is wrong? How can you tell God is wrong? When in none, I brought you into this world. So I have all the right, I have everything to say. And one of the things I'm not going to do is to apologize to you for all the pain I caused you. In fact, I caused you all that pain because I love you. And we have transferred the same issues to the next generation. This is where now you purpose to heal. You have witnessed so many things at home, whether it was physical abuse, your mother beating up your mom, or them both fighting, pouring hot water and other things on each other. You've witnessed all this. Or the abuse, they using very strong, profound words and lashing insults at each other. The home started feeling like a battlefield. These were two adults who did not take time to address what was going on with them. Instead, they decided to bring in another life into their mess. And now you are the mess. You're the byproduct of the mess. And you see, a majority of you have never taken time to address yourselves, to address any, you've never taken time to address the person in the mirror, because your biggest problem is not the depression, is not the anxiety, is not the emotional issues. The biggest problem is the person you look at in the mirror. That is your problem. The same way your parents escaped the truth, they have been running away from themselves. Their parents did the same way. Your grandfather did the same thing. So when I hear people praising the older generation of how they were streamlining everything, how back then things were better than they are right now, let me tell you this. If you were to have social media way back into those days, you'll be very surprised. If you think right now things are worse, back then it was way worse than you think. I used to have that mindset that back in the days everything was good. But no, everything was not good. Everything looked or sounded good because we didn't have actual evidence to see it. Mnadhani watu hizo siku wako wanagongeana? It used to happen. Out of 4 of you, 1 of you does not belong to your father. Out of all the 3 sisters you have, 2 of them are not from the same father. The things that your mothers have witnessed in the hands of your fathers and the so-called grandfathers, you'll be very surprised. And the question was always, why did they stay? And even if they decided to move, they never took time to address themselves. So they got with another person, paired with another person. And this is what now trauma bonding does. It is always people with traumas that bond, because there is something that brings you guys together, and that is that trauma bond is what brings you guys together. Because when you talk in terms of the trauma, the things you guys have gone through. And I think I discussed in the mental health series where I said when trauma bonding happens, they hardly discuss solutions on how they can deal with those traumas. It is always them, we versus them, and how people have wronged them, but it's never about them and how they can deal with their own issues. Our parents, they were the sole reason behind these self-esteem issues that we see today. I know you don't want to admit it, but it's the truth. Do you know I've witnessed growing up a mother who had serious issues with her daughter, and this is because the daughter was more beautiful than her. So she used to cage her daughter, closely guarded, and she used to insult her anytime she, people will talk to her, the young boys or even the men. She even made sure that at school, shule, ali make sure that she's being monitored na walimu and even with her peers. Because for us, we lived in a community, so tuko tunajuana. So utapata mtoto anani anaambiwa hebu kunaangalia una report. Anaambia mzazi wake, mzazi anakuja anaambia huyu. So hata gekatio ilikuwa gani vita. You know what happened when she got her freedom? She did everything she's always wanted to do. And at the back of her mind, it's like she was punishing her mother for all the pain her mother caused her. But in the hindsight, she was punishing herself. Narcissists mirror exactly who they are. And that's why I'm saying, when you listen to me, I want you to picture yourself. Mimi sijui mzazi wako. I don't know your parents, but you know your parents. I want you to think, because you know you can. Jieke kwa a time capsule and go back, way back. All the insults and everything your parents, they lashed at you, they were actually telling you who they are. It was actually them. So if your parent told you, unaringa because you think you're beautiful, they were actually describing themselves. They were trying to make you feel less so that they can feel good. What does that mean? Am I making sense now? They were telling you they're the ones with self-esteem issues. When they said that they were the ones who were number one in school, yet most of them did not even, they were dropouts. Me, I'm from the era of having chiefs, DO, DC, provincial commissioner, PC. And by PC, I don't mean personal computer, I mean provincial commissioners. And I remember the chiefs, they used to be old and bitter men. They were so bitter. Why? Because they were uneducated. I mean, this is a class 3 dropout with the position of a chief. How do you expect that person to reason? And on top of that, they have serious esteem issues. They only believed in one thing. They believed in flogging, that the only way to correct is through violence. And so they had a very serious problem with people who were educated. Let me even make it more relatable. Let us go to school. If you happened to be very smart in school, not all teachers were very receptive, especially when you challenged them in class. They never liked it. Or if you came from an affluent family, there is a way they used to issue those backhanded disrespect, because I used to see it. Our parents had serious issues. And they believed they were fine. They believed they were fine. They believed they were okay, but they had serious issues. They were manipulators, and they still are. They manipulate you till date. And there's a reason you let them do it. Why? Because of the instructions they gave you from the beginning. Remember, I said, there is the religious route, there is the problem-solving route, and different other channels, different routes. There are parents who only were able to channel what they have based on that time. And there are parents who channeled everything because they saw the future. And they wanted this thing to transform every generation. They wanted the lineage to be different. And this is why we have so many issues. And this is why we have so many issues in our country and around the world. But if I talk about this country, we have poverty is one of the things which it's like a thorn in the flesh, and it has everything to do with the tree. So you have two broke parents, they get together and they bring up a family. They struggle, they're unable even to put food on the table. Most of the time they're unable. They can't afford, even paying school fees is a problem. Buying school uniform is a problem. Watoto wanaenda shule with unkept hair. They are dirty, uniform faded. Some even smell the smell of urine, hygiene issues, and that is their life. And then there is constant issues within the family because both parents, there is nothing as worse as poverty. With poverty, you can never be at peace. Never. Especially if you're a family man. There are constant fights. A family that lives in a single room and you're about 5 kids, 5 plus the 2 parents, 7 people in a single room. And these children are going to age. Feeding a family of 7 daily. And then they go to school where they interact with their peers from different backgrounds. And they see how they're catered for. They see how they get their school fees paid on time. When they put on their shoes, they don't see their toenails. Now, this is what happens. When you're used into that environment, at first it's very uncomfortable. But it gets to a point where you get used to it. And once you get used to it, it sticks in you. That's another instruction. That's why there are people who came from the ghetto, but they never left the ghetto. These things, they sound easy, but it's hard. To reprogram yourself, it's hard. What if these 2 parents, before bringing life into this world, they decided, let us address our issues. We grew up seeing this. We don't want a replica of the same. Because, and it's the truth, whether you like it or not, or debate me, the truth is out there. I've seen people who are born in the ghetto. They grew up and they had families in the ghetto. They grew old and their children also had the same family. A whole generation living in the ghetto. And in such a family unit, when one becomes successful, that becomes the one to save the whole entire generation. That is tons upon tons of responsibility, which comes with a lot of manipulation, where you're expected to do so much, and the only thing you're going to get is that God is going to bless you. And that is your life. You have never addressed yourself. You have never sat down. Take that time capsule and go way back into your family unit, because you know all the things, all the rot and all the deep secrets and everything that happened in your family, But you never took time to address those things. Why? Because you don't want to open, like people say, you don't want to open the wound. You don't want to open that closet, the can of worms. But for me, I always say, if you really want to be a healed person, if you want to heal, if you want to be on this healing journey, you have to go back and open it. That way you will know the root cause of the many problems that you have. Because on the surface you see sweat, but there is so much, a lot. Throughout the 9 years of advocacy, there's so many people who have reached out with deeply rooted issues. Why is it that I always ask about family history, and if you receive any support from your immediate system? Excuse me. Why do I always go back to that? It's because deep down I know how they easily dismiss issues. How the biggest bullies will always be the family unit. If you want to understand the ways of the world, look at your family. You want to study female nature, look at your family, look at your mother, look at your sisters. Masculinity, look at your father, look at your brothers. And if you really want to know a healed person, that person actually the individual, not the personal, the individual is usually not liked. In the family, that person is usually not liked because this individual operates different from the norm, away from the norm, away from the identity that was given to them. I have nothing wrong with Christianity, but I have always questioned Christianity until I realized that you have to tap into the right energy of God, because everything you have, everything that you pray for has already been given to you. So if you're praying for good health, all you have to do is stop eating junk and garbage and work out, drink your water, you'll be okay. If you're asking for peace of mind, how can you get peace of mind when you're living with problems? You have to detach yourself from the problems. Our parents, they never took their time to address their own issues. So what they did, they passed down because they wanted us to become them. And many of them succeeded, by the way. You've witnessed the manipulation that happens when even parents separate, the fight for wealth. So when someone says that family is everything, I tend to look at it with a different scope, a different eye. It's usually the family you create, not the one you come from, the one you create. And also you as an individual, because many of you are really putting yourselves and your lives on the line for people you shouldn't. You are blaming your parents for not helping you instead of taking time to go back and understand where the problem originated. Why are they like this? Mbona umekuwa hii design? Why is it that your parent paka saa hii at your age can still manipulate you? The focus is always on the problem, but not on the individual. Most of you lack identity. There is the identity that was given to us by our parents, and then now there is you, your true identity. Who are you? Do you even know yourself? For most of you, and for the few that I've talked to, I can tell you, kuna mtu nikisikia akiongea, I can tell this is the dad speaking, this is the mom speaking, or this is someone they came across YouTube speaking, but not them. They lack principles. Hakuna principles yote most of you have. Just living life vicariously, and you wonder why you keep rotating and going through the same cycle. It's because of what? You have never taken time to address yourself. You see, I told you your biggest enemy and problem is the one you look at in the mirror. People have done you wrong. People have done all these other things. It's bound to happen. But the problem is you, because you allowed it to happen. And you allowed it to happen because you have no principles. You allowed it to happen because you still have a lot of baggage that you're carrying. Instead of cutting it loose and detaching yourself, you're still attached. That's why you care so much about what people think of you. That's why you care so much about what people say, which goes back to the roots. Your parents cared so much about what people thought about your family. Now you doing the same because you've never detached. You're repeating the same things you saw happening in your family. You've never taken time to deal with the root. The focus is always on the problem, depression, anxiety, abuse that was caused by the parents. It's because the parents never dealt with their own issues, and so they transfer them to you. As an adult, you have no reason whatsoever to complain about how your parents never loved you, of all the things they did to you. Do you know why I'm saying this? As an adult, you have a sole responsibility to take care of yourself, to address those issues. Yes, they were transferred to you. You cannot be evil like your own parent. As an adult, and still go back and blame your parents. This blame shifting that I usually see, no, it is up to you to sit down and call yourself for a meeting. I know most of you fear being by yourselves, because when you're by yourself, it forces you to think about yourself, to think about you. When you're by yourself, you start seeing your life, you start seeing yourself, but you don't like that. This is why you have to stick to victimhood. You have to go back to the identity that was given to you, what was passed down to you. You have to go back to that. And this is a very vicious cycle. And then, now that you're an adult and you resemble your parents in all possible ways, now your parents don't like it. That's why they're angry at you. They don't like it because they're seeing themselves. They're seeing what they created. They don't like that. So the question is, why do they hate what they created? If you can tell your son or daughter that they were bewitched, that's why they are sweating, what does that say about you as a parent? How many times have you spoken to your parent about sweat issues and they dismissed it like it's nothing? Or you're sweating, when Zako, they're also sweating. What's the problem? Or you're sweating, but your friends out there are doing well and better than you. You're sweating. No one has ever died of sweat. You're sweating. Is it painful? They dismiss. And then when ukienda kuchukua kitu kama ID, they also become part of the trigger. Why are you sweating? Why are you this? And by the time you leave that place, you're very drained. When we talk of mental health, we will focus more on the problem, right? When they were there, they were saying all these harsh words to you and it triggered you. You were unable to take your biometrics capture or your fingerprints, that is. I'm from the old school way where we used to put our palms on kulikuwa na bar fulani yenye iko na hiyo rangi ya biometric. And that thing was horrendous. I remember when I went to take my ID, I went there with my mom and she didn't even help. She was constantly just scolding me on how, why are you sweating? Why are you this? Stop dancing, stop this. And I'm there, I'm like, nime grow up, umekuwa ukiona niko na hii problem, so why is it that now you're saying all this? And how, and it's not that I'm throwing her under the bus or anything, but I remember vile alikuwa naongea hapo nikichukua, when they were capturing my fingerprints, in a way she was exempting herself from me and my issue. And once I was done there, as we were walking home, I didn't even feel like talking to her. For me, I got my ID before I cleared high school. I'll clear high school with my ID. I already had an ID as I was clearing high school. Listen up, if you plan to become a parent, before you bring a child into this world, can you purpose to address yourself? Most of you are running away from yourselves, and that's why you're making some of the worst decisions. You gamble with your children. You gamble even with their health. You yourself, you know where you come from. You know how dysfunctional your family is. But yet, instead of you taking that time to just go on the healing process. And that's why if you look at the tree itself, the blue represents those who are in the healing process. And as you can see, there are very few. Now, I want you to look at what has been happening in this country, especially this year. You tell me, and I've said this over and over, this society is full of sick people. Sick. Dressed in suit, smelling good, driving the best cars, living life on the fast lane, living large, but they're sick. Their money cannot cover their level of sickness. In fact, the more money they have, the more sick they become. You yourself, you struggle with so many things. And the part of all these struggles is because you've never taken time to address yourself. It's always the depression. I'm depressed. We analyze and we find solutions to how, or give you tools on how to deal with the depression. And this is why I looked at it and was like, no, something is missing. And what is that thing? And how can we approach this from a different perspective and not the usual? The problem. We are facing the problem, focusing on the problem. Why are we not focusing on the individual? Why are we not focusing on the individual? Why are we not pushing by telling these individuals with emotional issues that you need, msimamishe kwa kioo na umwambie, you want to know what's bothering you? You want to know your problem? And your greatest enemy, yes, it's the one you're looking at. That is your problem. That is the problem right there. Now deal with that person. Now you've made it personal. It's not about the problem, it's about the person. Now this, if they really purpose to heal, they will look at the tree. And from that tree, they know they have the answers. Wanajua, hata wewe mwenyewe mwenye unanisikiza sahi, you know you have the answers to the many problems you have. Because I know we are not just dealing with hyperhidrosis alone. Most of you have some serious issues, problems that were caused by your parents. The amount of abuse that your parents have done to you, the pain caused by your parents and even your siblings. I will always stand by my word that the greatest bullies are in the family. Because out here, people can say things, very worse things about you. But what are the odds of you going home angry over what someone said for a period of time? It's highly unlikely, unless now, again, that also falls under you as a person, which I'm going to explain it later. What someone says on the outside compared to what someone says in the family setting is different. Mwalimu wako wa maths alisema wewe ni bure, hakuna mahali utaenda. And then right now you're making more money than huo mwalimu wako wa maths. Now can you compare that with your parent saying that you're nothing, you're useless, you're all the... I would rather even buy domestic animals than have you. You know, I'm saying things which I know have been said to you. If you came from a perfect family where everything was sugar and spice, then this is not for you. This recording is not for you. But I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you who wondered, asubuhi itafika saa ngapi utoke kwa hiyo nyumba tu uende shule na si kwenda kusoma, uende tu so that you can be away from your family. I'm talking to you who wondered at what time will both your parents leave just to go hustle so that ubaki tu kwa hiyo nyumba so that you can have peace of mind. I'm talking to you who prayed numerous times that wageni tu wakuja watembee home so that at least the environment can change. That every time a guest showed up, you'll run and thank the heavens above that someone came to visit. Hata kama mutaeko pressure ya kupika chai, ya kuleta sijui nini, even if mgeeko pressure ya kupika chai and snacks and all that, the fact that a guest has visited your home, that translated to peace. In fact, if the guest would show up with their children, that was even a plus, because now you interact with their children. Yani, for the first time, your mind has been taken away from your parents. Now you're living a moment which you don't want to end. You don't want this moment to end. I really don't want this to end. And then when the guests are about to leave, what happens? It's back to default settings. And when the guests leave, you guys will be summoned while you're playing with their children. Why were you guys laughing? And you know what used to happen when maybe the guests show up with their children and you guys are actually having real fun? You guys tend to be loud and shouting, laughing and all that. They would usually show up and tell you to turn it down. And once they leave, I know some of you will even be punished. I know some of you will be punished for doing that, for having fun. You go to school, you even extend to certain hours so that you can come back home. You'd rather even feed on the lunch programs if they used to have rather than coming back home for lunch. I even know individuals who used to sacrifice lunch. They would rather just come back and eat in the evening. Yani ile mtu tu akule kama ameingia kulala. There was lack of peace. And I'm talking to a majority because most of you have never healed. Taken time to heal from all this. You're supposed to sit down and look at all these things. Look at, even go, your mind, it's a capsule. You can go back, the insults that were lashed at you. And then I'll start looking at your parent differently, because now, like I've told you, they were actually projecting who they are to you. So nyinyi wenye mumekasirikia wazazi wenyu for 20, 30, I don't know how many years. The thing is, they were telling you exactly who they are. And and I'm here actually to disappoint you even more. They will never apologize for what they did to you. So what you need to do is to forgive them and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself from accepting all that was directed to you. Forgive yourself for allowing yourself to believe in all the instructions, because that's what I call, remember nimesema you're like a hard drive. So everything was being stored in you. The identity they gave you, you have every right to rewrite everything afresh. So don't be stuck thinking and in bitterness. No, I'm just here to give you a different twist. Your parents, they told you exactly who they were. They never took time to address what was going on with them. That's why they hid in so many things. Addiction. Alcohol addiction was very predominant during my time, during my days. They never addressed it, and it has affected most of us. So I know you're not just dealing with hyperhidrosis, you're dealing with so many things. There is you out here with anxiety issues, clinical anxiety, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, some OCD, and I know for a fact if we go back, we can find the source of where all these problems started. The focus should always be on the person. Your greatest problem is the one you're looking at in the mirror. And the solution to all the problems is the very same person you're looking at. So have a very serious meeting with that person.